Hello, thank you. I am really delighted to be here. A bit nervous, but that's only to be expected. When I was asked to appear here and I was told of the title of Crafting the Unexpected, it was something that made me actually sit and think a little bit. Because in my role as a PR and marketing person, something that clients ask me to do all of the time, to come up with something wildly imaginative and creative and out there. My usual response to them at that point is to actually say no. It's a bit risky, saying no to people who potentially pay your bills. But it is, I think, starting from the wrong point. It's far more interesting to ask them, well, what do you believe in? What are your passions? What are your beliefs? And it's those types of questions that often flummox people. It's also something that I've personally struggled with to try to get to understand what I really believe. And perhaps that comes from my upbringing. I grew up with two parents who were driven by their faith and their belief. They worked voluntarily behind the scenes in some of the most dangerous situations in the world. We grew up in South Africa during the apartheid era, where they worked for peace and reconciliation. We then moved to my father's country of birth, Northern Ireland, where they continued their work behind the scenes. They had a vocation and a passion and a belief that I really, truly admire. They could have gone the easy route. They both come from privileged backgrounds, and they could have very easily become part of the establishment. But they didn't. They actually chose a really difficult route because it was something that they personally really believed. And every day they challenged people on the decisions that they made and how they lived their lives. And when I left home, and as Jasper said, I went through my early career of struggling to find my way, I was actually searching for that sense of vocation. It's very easy, I think, to just go through life without stopping to question yourself. But in doing so, I think we bypass a really interesting journey. But it's a very difficult journey. And that is to actually get to the essence of who we are. Some people with a marketing mind would refer to this as brand, the essence. That sounds terribly grandiose and most probably not applicable to all of us individuals. But in essence, we are brands, all of us. And while we might not be great big corporate brands, we all have a public persona that we want to put out there. Graham Massey and Stephen Fuller of brand agency The House, based in Bath, talk of brand as a promise. And I like thinking of it in this way because it's a promise to your customers about how you serve them, to your employees about the type of company that you create, to the community, those people who are invested in you, who want to be part and included within your organization or your team. And I think I also like it because it's about actually really putting your hand on your heart and saying, yes, I can stand up behind that. I promise I will do that. And it makes us accountable so that when things go wrong, we can honestly apologize. And it's the honest part of the apology that really works, rather than the ones that tend to come out saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, where you don't believe at all what they're saying. So how do we actually get to this truth, to understanding who we are? From a business perspective, I would say it's absolutely not about looking out at what's already out there and trying to copy it. It's not about saying, I want to be like Apple. Nor is it about trying to work against something that other people do. I don't want to be like Ryanair. And it's definitely not about sitting down with a blank sheet of paper and trying to find something unique and different. Because actually, fundamentally, what we sell, what we produce, are rarely unique. Those are the exceptions. And I absolutely take, with Dyson talking, and also with an audience full of creators and artists, that they are the lucky ones, because they do have a vocation and a sense of purpose to create something different. For the rest of us, it's actually about looking inside and looking internally to say, what is it that I believe in and I really value? I want to tell you a quick story. And it's about an IT company that I worked with Liz Brewer of Creating Mischief and Stuart Redpath of Liminal Consulting. And it was for an IT company called ESIT, or ESIT, or ESIT, or any other permeation of those. And that was obviously a bone of contention, as was the fact that their logo wasn't particularly good. But that actually wasn't the starting point with them. When we sat down and we met them, we asked them the question that I mentioned earlier, who are you? Because it wasn't clear from their communication or their website what it was that drove them as a business. The managing director, John Bird, took a leap of faith to go through the painful experience of finding out. And I say painful because really trying to examine who you are is incredibly difficult. It's like a surgical inspection. It delves really deeply, and it usually throws up some home truths that maybe we were trying to avoid. But how did we get, with that company and with everybody else, back to that sense of truth that I've been mentioning? With the ESIT, and with anybody, whether you're a company or an individual, I would absolutely recommend going to your customers, your friends, and go to a spread of them. Go to people who are highly supportive, because they'll be full of praise and it's great. And then go to those who, are maybe slightly tricky, slightly difficult, those friends who tell it to you in black and white. And then also go to those who are very critical, because although there might be a million reasons as to why they're like that, the truth of what they say is still incredibly important. And I think that's the great thing about actually going out and asking people, because you can't argue with it. It is the truth of how they find you. It is their experience of you. We did this with the ESIT. We went out to their customers. And while nobody knew the company name and they couldn't pronounce it, what they did know actually was the product name. And the product name was called Thank You, which was a perfect fit, because what it did was provide fundraising software for charities. And that's what charities say to their donors all of the time. Thank you for supporting us. Without your pounds and pennies, we wouldn't be able to do the work that we did. But much more than just the name of the company, we also uncovered two other really important truths. One of which was they were a fantastic group of people. And actually, when charities had an issue with the software, and this is where you usually test your customer experience, when people had issues, they had something called a 20-minute rule, which was if you can't find the answer yourself within 20 minutes or asking somebody else in the office, phone them up. You'll get to speak to people who actually helped put the software together, and they'll be able to solve it immediately. And for many of us who waste hours a day struggling with technology, I think we can understand how powerful that is. And the other thing that we also uncovered was actually the energy and the environment of the team, of people themselves. They were great fun, and they enjoyed getting up and going to work in the morning. So when De Facto, which was the agency who came up with the visual identity, developed the Thank You brand, we wanted to imbue it with that sense of personality. So we made the Q into a little character. But not only that, we also enabled us to play with it, to have fun with it, to go out, to reflect different clients, to go and have different fun advertising campaigns around it. And really importantly, it gave them a personality out in the marketplace. They could live up to this, and it gave them a permission to be able to communicate. That's obviously a story about a company, and as I said, many of us out there are individuals. But the process really is still the same, because in today's world, we've all got a public profile. We've all written resumes or biographies or put together a website or a piece about us on a website. We've all got LinkedIn profiles, or most of us have, Facebook pages, Twitter accounts. All of this is about how we present ourselves out in the marketplace. As much as going out and asking people how they experience you, it's equally important to be able to actually look inside and find out what you value and what you hold dear, those areas that actually you really won't compromise on. Back to my folks for a sec. They have 4 key values, and these are huge, enormous ones, but they are absolute honesty, absolute purity, absolute unselfishness, and absolute love. Now, wow, these are tremendous, and we usually, we always fell short of those, but actually, because they lived in our family and in the work that my parents did, it would mean that we could actually question every decision that we made against them. Did you say that from a basis of unselfishness? Did you mean that with total honesty? Did you approach that person with absolute love? And it's actually that living the values that you have that's intrinsic. So many organizations come up with great words and put them on bits of paper and display them in the reception. Or they hand them out in a closed booklet to new people who join the company and say, this is what we believe in. It's not, if it's like that. But if you use them as a way to judge what you're saying and how you're communicating and acting, then it's incredibly valuable. So, I might be pushing it when I say that we are all brands. But if you look at brand as a promise, if you look at it as an essence, it touches on some really big philosophical questions. And this is why it's a difficult but hugely valuable process to go through. And those questions are, who am I and what am I here to achieve? Now, I don't say by any means that marketing people such as myself have the answer to these questions. But I think by actually being able to go through the journey of helping people uncover them, they will find something that they can stand behind, a promise that they can make. And importantly, to communicate in a way that resonates with who we are now and helps us on our journey to who we want to be. Thank you.